another episode of Why the Beef. This is your boy Reg in the building. And for today, it's going to be a little bonus episode where we're going to talk about underrated diss tracks in hip hop history. Now, one thing about hip hop music I love is just the diss tracks, just rappers going against each other on wax, just going for the jugular and shit. And so if you're going to expect like certain songs like Ether, Hit 'Em Up, Take Over, songs like that, Back Down, you're going to be disappointed. This is going to be like for the ones that kind of fell under the radar. And so without further ado, let's get started.
Smack me when I whip your brain, skip your brain, and dip your brain in a lotion.
So the first song comes from the Ultramagnetic MCs. This came out in 1992. The story with this track came after the release of their debut album, Critical Beatdown, in 1988. The Ultramagnetic MCs, in between 88 and 92, they were going through different labels and having like a lot of creative differences towards them. However, around the time that they were trying to get ready to come back out during the early 90s, hip hop was definitely going through like many transitional phases, with the whole native tongues and whatnot, and just the whole, conscious rap exploding. And Kool Keith pretty much, he did not really like the fact that, hip hop was like getting watered down in his perspective. So in 1992, off the album Funk Your Head Up, they dropped the classic, in my opinion, track Plucking Cards.
I'm the X, the man, the first challenger. I keep rhymes in place like Bob Gallagher, fitting. And in the chair I'm sitting. Rappers know I'm cool, rappers know I'm cute, like Charlie Brown. Good grief. I see rappers, I know they turn African. I just pedal my bike, then I laugh again.
Now the reason why I found this song very underrated was the fact that he went after pretty much everybody on this track, from Kane to LL Cool J to Kumo D and Salt and Pepper and so on and so on. And it was just like some of the lines just went over people's heads too, like, and it's just so crazy too, because of the fact that when it comes to like battle rap, Kool Keith never really gets his shine and stuff too. So Plucking Cards, that's probably going to be the first song on this list that I will consider very underrated.
Dollars, so I can give you rocks and do you want powder. Whatever you get, I bet you it's the...
Now the next song, it comes from Drew Down with the song Mr. Buster. This song came out in 1995 on... Excuse me, that song actually came out in 1996 off Drew Down's Can You Feel Me album. So the story with this track was the fact that Drew Down, Too Short, and Lunas was pretty much, having like a beef around that time too. And, Too Short, being like one of the premier MCs from Oakland, he pretty much like put a lot of motherfuckers on the map. People said that they were influenced by Short. And of course, Lunas came out around that time too with their Operation Stankonia album. And, also around that time too, Too Short and his business partner, friend Chris Hicks, what I'm saying, who's also down with Lunas and Drew Down, they had a falling out too around that time too. And there was also reports that, Too Short got his ass beat in a club and whatnot. And, Lunas and Drew Down, they took this with a grain of salt, because they threw shots at Short Dog on Lunas threw shots at Short Dog off the Player Haters track off Operation Stankonia. And, of course, Too Short, dissed them, I want to say, on the track Trouble from the Dangerous Crew. And then that's where like Drew Down came out with his side called Mr. Buster.
That's it, you're right. From this rap shit you think is over. Didn't want to retaliate, but you baby. Now I'm going crazy. Mr. Buster, Mr. Buster. Since you're right. From this rap shit you think is over. Didn't want to retaliate, but you baby. Now I'm going crazy. Okay, now Pumpkin Heads is what
Now this is a very, very, very dope track in my opinion. This track right here, I love that beat. I love how charismatic Drew Down was on this track right here. I mean, this was a beef where I could have pretty much picked anything from this beef and put it on the underrated list. But yeah, man, this is very dope. This is Drew Down with Mr. Buster.
Can't get with that. I gotta keep it picked up a bit, so I hit him like this.
Okay, the next track. This is T.I. featuring Jay-Z, Watch What You Say to Me, aimed at Lil Wayne. Now this is gonna be a different song because the fact that I'm mostly gonna highlight Jay-Z's verse on this track. So in 2007, early 2007, Lil Wayne pretty much did an interview with Complex Magazine where he said that he was the best rapper alive and he was a better rapper than Jay-Z. And a lot of people pretty much they'd say, oh, why you have to come at Jay-Z like that, you know what I'm saying? And in an issue on Triple XL, the cover story, he actually apologized, saying that, and I quote, I want to apologize to Jay and his family and friends because I was asked that question and they put me in there like I was just feeling like, oh, you know what, nigga, I'm better than Jay. They came at me like, so you say you're the best? Can you say that you're better than everybody? Would you say you're better than Jay? I was like, yeah, nigga, I'm better than everybody. But I'd like to know that apology out there because of underrated. But I like to know that apology out there because of whatever trouble I caused. I didn't want that to happen. So, fast forward to, late 2007, T.I. dropped his T.I. versus T.I.P. album. And so with that album, they had this track called Watch What You Say to Me. And, T.I., he had the first verse. And of course, Jay-Z, he pretty much threw shots at Lil Wayne and even threw some subliminals at Birdman too on that verse. And yeah, he definitely did his thing on that one.
Saying, lock them up in the booth with a half an ounce of that cannabis. Sit back and watch the outlandish shit they be trying. But soon as you see them, they freeze up like in museums. Them statues you like, is that the dude who said he was gonna? Niggas get running before you finish your sentence, and then they back to riffing when they off in the same distance. You like.
I definitely feel like it's underrated because the fact that people, it was kind of like swept under the rug at the time because it was like a friendly competition. But at that time too, Jay had just came back from retirement like a year before, so at the same time people were just felt more gravitated towards Eazy at that time too. But it is what it is. I personally feel like it's one of my favorites off T.I. versus T.I.P.
But little did I know she had a dude with hella money, hella jewels. I was just another nigga at school.
Freddie Gibbs, Real. In April of 2011, Freddie Gibbs had signed a deal with Young Jeezy's Corporate Thugs Entertainment label. And by December 2012, there was literally almost no music coming out. And Gibbs and Jeezy, they pretty much had like a falling out and whatnot. And so Gibbs have always said that the split was mutual and that, there was no disses. However, he came out with this song called Real.
Hit or not, I hit it with the whip, they notice it when they hit the rock. I'm just a cocaine and chemist, cooking, chopping, and cutting. You die if I push a button. Niggas heard of me now, all of a sudden they back to thugging. If I never sell a record, might catch me how I jugging. The DA want me gon' say I'm detriment to the public. Took his daughter, put his dick in the butt and said how you love it, bitch. Remember, everybody ain't loyal, cause all.
With the acronym Remember Everybody Ain't Loyal, this is another heavy diss track where Gibbs was challenging Jeezy and even making fun of the fact that he backed down from confrontations with like Rick Ross and whatnot. I mean, I personally fuck with this diss. This came out of the Pinata album, I want to say. Yeah, man, like I definitely feel like this is definitely one of Freddie Gibbs' lyrically best songs in my opinion. Just went in on Jeezy.
Your block to make you know me. You ain't ready yet. Slow down and recollect.
We're gonna go with fucking N.O.R.E. with Halfway Thugs Part 2. Now this was a diss track against Tragedy Gaddafi. So signing Capone and Noriega in like 1996, they dropped the album The War Report in 1997. Well, technically, while Capone was in jail at that time too, Noriega and Tragedy finished The War Report. And at that time too, it was all good until N.O.R.E accused Tragedy of, taking some of the album proceeds, and he felt that, Capone deserved way more than he should have had. The fact that, he was trying to hold him down while he was in prison too. So, with that being said, he pretty much attacked him on the Halfway Thugs tracks and whatnot.
He don't want to be a Muslim no more. He used to be black and proud, now he want to be hardcore. Yeah. He don't want to be a Muslim no more. He used to be black and proud, now he want to be hardcore. Doing out, met this cat, EBT and veggie burgers.
And this track right here, I gotta say, is one of my favorite N.O.R.E tracks ever. I mean, the chorus, he don't want to be a Muslim no more. He used to be black and proud, now he just want to be hardcore. I mean, because you guys remember at that time too, Tragic Gaddafi was not always Tragic Gaddafi. Well, technically he was, but when he was originally in Cold Chillin' Records, he went by, they had to market him by the Intelligent Hoodlum because they felt that Tragic Gaddafi was not like a marketable name. And so by the time when Cold Chillin' folded through, he went back to the Tragic Gaddafi name and stuff like that too. So yeah, man, I definitely feel like the N.O.R.E track was one of my favorite tracks. Very dope beat and stuff like that. I mean, yeah, man. I'm just grateful that they all squashed their beef still, but yeah, classic.
Whitney Houston told me that it's gonna take more than a bullet in the heart to hold me.
With the Game with My Bitch, aimed at Jay-Z, Suge Knight, and 50 Cent. So, the Game pretty much dropped a lot of diss tracks over the years, from the 300 bars and whatnot to the, I want to say the Still Lying track aimed at 50. But this is the track right here I personally feel like does not really get the credit it deserves because of the fact that it uses the same formula that LL did with To the Break of Dawn, dedicated each verse to each MC, and he's referring to bitch as a woman and stuff like that. So I think the first verse he went after 50 Cent, next verse he went after Jay-Z, and next verse he went after Suge Knight and whatnot. I mean, very, very, very cool diss track from the Game and whatnot too. This is one I kind of believe is very underrated.
Coach got fucked by this white bitch, had her legs wide open. As long as my pockets was fat, I didn't give a fuck where the bitch was at. My pretty young thing, she kept my nuts drained. All the time she was plotting on my aftermath chain. Bitch couldn't stay in the lane. Start running with this hoe from the south, gold grill in the mouth. She put her on the track.
Ain't forbidden, don't do what y'all done it too late, y'all did it. Now straight to the track, I'm running your back like backtrack.
Go with Jay-Z's The Blueprint 2. Now, this might be a very surprising pick. If you guys have watched this channel and follow me, it won't be too surprising because I talked about this track plenty of times. But so after the release of Ether, and this is coming from Nas himself, that Jay dropped 3 responses. One of the responses was like a radio freestyle that he did after Ether, but it got kind of like scrapped away and stuff like that. And then right after that, he did the track People Talking. That was like an unreleased, well, not unreleased, it was like a hidden track from the Jay-Z Unplugged album. And of course, he did the Super Ugly track where, of course, his mom had to make him apologize for that track because he said that he slept with Carmen. And so at that time too, people were kind of gravitating more to Nas. And what was also interesting was it was alleged that his former mentor, Jaz-O, Jay-Z's former mentor to be exact, was, supplying Nas with the information about, him taking taboo lessons and stuff like that, about, somebody Nas and information used against Ether. And also, Rosie Perez, yes, the actress Rosie Perez, she also, was asked in the Hip Hop magazine her thoughts on the Jay-Z and Nas beef, and she pretty much was on Nas's side because she didn't like how Jay-Z always used the word bitch in his music. And, of course, Jay-Z dropped The Blueprint 2, The Gift and the Curse in 2002, which that album was not that good, but it did have a few bright spots, and this track was one of them. This should have been the real response to Ether, in my personal opinion, because of the fact that Jay was talking about, Nas's credibility, and he was just talking about how, he was giving some valid points, like, is it Uchi Wally or is it like Black Girl Lost and stuff like that. Personally, I felt like this track right here gets kind of swept under the rug because of the fact that, it's not anything like Takeover, but at the same time, I feel like if he would have dropped this right after Ether, it could have had like a better chance. Because personally, I didn't care for Super Ugly. I'm gonna be quite honest with you guys, but that's another story for a different day. All right.
Stunning. Heard, don't obstruct this. Where's the trumpets? Give me the beat and I'll pump it my way.
So the next track comes from, again, another surprising track. Next question. From Kid and Play. This was aimed at 2 Live Crew. Okay, so where should I begin with this one? Alright, so this is pretty much a battle between what some people might say the corniest hip hop group against like the most vulgar hip hop group and shit. So it all started when Kid and Play and Salt and Pepper, they appeared on Video Soul, I want to say like about 88, 89, one of them years and stuff like that. And they were pretty much, talking about how 2 Live Crew was not right for the hip hop music and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? This led to 2 Live Crew dropping the classic track I Ain't Bullshittin' 2. Very, very dope track indeed. And, also around that time too, Vanilla Ice was popular around that time. And he was getting like a lot of flack because it was alleged that he said that he was like a better dancer than Hammer, because people were looking at Ice like he was like a white counterparts of Hammer. And so pretty much Kid and Play dropped the next question off their second, I want to say, no, not the second album, their third album called Face the Nation.
Ill. The records get large and now they're stars. Drop that cars and lead an entourage. Now all that's cool, but what about the kids around the way who hang on every word you say? Got their attention, created a thirst, but it can't be filled with curse after curse after curse. Don't like to judge a man's craft, but just think before you laugh about the money you're raking in. There's young minds out there you're breaking in. Sorry.
And that album right there was very, very, very dope. That's possibly my favorite Kid and Play album, believe it or not. And the reason why I feel like this track is underrated because the fact that, they were really going at it with Luke and fucking Vanilla Ice. And they were defending, the fact that how they make good music to entertain. They're not trying to follow like the whole gangster rap train at that time too. And, it's kind of crazy too because listening to the song now just shows you like how the East kind of thought of the South, because there was certain lines where Kid was like, let's go to the place where the drum hits hard, Miami and stuff, because at that time Miami music, like Miami bass music, was like one of the definitive sounds coming from the Southern hip hop, and people used to just look at Miami as like, oh, it's just bass music and whatnot too. So my phone. So yeah, it's very interesting track. And again, 2 Live Crew responded with the Pussy Ass Kid and Punk Ass Play track and whatnot, and that was a very cool track too. Any song from that beat again could have been on this list too. So
Drink with the homies as I bail through this city with a rep like Frank Nitty. Not giving a fuck cause y'all niggas can't fuck with us.
I'm from Tweety Bird Loke, Fuck the South Bronx, aimed at Tim Dog and the Boogie Down Productions. Where do I begin with Tweety Bird Loke? Pretty much, if I was to make a list on the top 5 Tweety Bird Loke songs, half of the songs would probably be diss tracks, because he went after everybody from N.W.A. to, Queen Latifah to the Fresh Prince, went after everybody. But this is like one of his better diss tracks, in my opinion. So Tim Dog dropped his track, Fuck Compton, which that was off the Penicillin on Wax album. And that was, of course, a diss track against, NWA, DJ Quick, basically rappers from Compton. But the thing is, he made it known that it was not aimed. It was not like a fuck the West Coast, because he was cool with cats like Ice-T. He was cool with Tone Loc. He was cool with Above the Law. And ironically, he even gave a pass to Ice Cube, because he said he was cool with Ice Cube too. The whole fuck concept pretty much came when, you know, a lot of the East Coast rappers were like persuaded by the labels, you know, to rap like N.W.A. and whatnot, and Tim Dog was not having it. And also because the fact that Dr. Dre got in trouble with the whole D Barnes incident. But I talked more about that when I was doing the Dr. Dre versus Luke video. Make sure y'all check that one out. But back to Tweety Bird Loc, he came out with the Fuck the South Bronx song, where he was just talking about how this and Tim Dog. And he also threw some shots at, you know, KRS-One and D-Nice of BDP. Because, of course, KRS-One was very close with Tim Dog at that time, too. And, yeah, man, this is definitely one of my favorite Tweety Bird Loc diss tracks. I was going to put the one he did with Queen Latifah on this list, too, but I felt like that one got more talked about than this one. And, you know, when it comes to, like, the disses against Tim Dog, you know, Compton's Most Wanted came out with the Who's Fucking Who, which, again, that was one I really wanted to put on this list too, but that one was like only for about 2 minutes. It was like close to 2 minutes and shit like that. And personally, I felt like that one kind of got its fair share of notoriety, if that makes sense. So I decided to throw in a Tweety Bird Loc song, and rest in peace to Tweety Bird Loc, because I think he recently died about close to 2 years ago, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
Let 'em know. I'm grabbing a Glock and I'm giving a bag of clips. Jumping into the fleet when it's time to take a trip. 3,000 miles away, but first I gotta get the niggas hooping niggas in a hearse. Criminalistic, ballistic, I'm coming to kick this shit. And now you saw brought faggots can't suck my dick. So eat a dick up, and take it a lick up, and rock the jock. Only on the tip because Compton pop. So T to the I to the ill motherfucker. Stupid silly sucker, you're nothing but a cracker. Sucking on a bed. I leave your mama and your papa back when I'm upset. I go another route. Your family make your brother snitch your mother out. After I done bugged out. Threats, stress out. Issues, exile. You don't give a
Cameron called Stan, aimed at Stan Spit. So, for those who don't know who Stan Spit is, he is, you know, a rapper, you know, known for his appearance in Belly. He also appeared on the Big L song Putting It Down and whatnot, and he was being mentored by Cameron. And so what ended up happening was he was kind of getting upset with Cameron due to the fact that he felt like he wasn't really putting him on like that, you know what I'm saying? Because at that time, between 2000, Cameron was just releasing the Sports, Drugs, and Entertainment album and whatnot too. So Stan Spit pretty much dissed Cameron in like a rare freestyle and whatnot, you know, just saying how he had not put him on and shit. And ironically, one of the most popular songs from that year was Eminem's Stan off the Marshall Mathers LP. And Cameron, being like the smart man that he is, you know, he pretty much dropped the Dear Stan, you know, rapped over the Eminem Stan beat. Very, very, very brutal diss track in my opinion.
Let try and help him get a deal. Let's see. Dear Stan, I gotta let this pen cross the line. You took too much ecstasy, I see you lost your mind. You've forgotten where you really are from. You really a bum. On top of that, you're silly and dumb. But I was nice to you. A real brother instead. Hung out with you on Mother's Day because your mother's dead. I got stuff to yell about, to tell about.
Ron just went in on Killer Cam, calling him Stan Ron, saying that he always wanted to be like him as in Cameron and shit like that too. And it was crazy because of the fact that he brought up Stan's dead mother. Like, that was crazy as fuck. And it's crazy to you because we never heard from Stan Spit since that diss track. So yeah, man, that's why I have to go with Cameron, Stan Spit, Dear Stan. Very, very, very underrated track. Next track.
Yeah, cause this is the way I know you like it, so you won't strike it. I took it and I hyped it. And now that it's done, I know you're pleased. And how the E just does it with ease. Just imagine a crowd screaming, a girl dreaming, just to get
with What Would You Do off the Straight Out the Motherfucking Streets of Compton, the posthumous album in 1995. So this was a pretty obscure diss track when it came to the whole Ruthless versus Death Row diss and whatnot. What was interesting about this track was the fact that it came out after he died. And the story with this track was the fact that the Dog Pound, they put out a track called What Would You Do? This was the original What Would You Do that what came out on, I want to say that was on the Murder Was the Case soundtrack, I want to say. And it was interesting too because the fact that, you know, they were dissing Ruthless Records, and of course, you know, Eazy-E, you know, he did his own version of it, and he pretty much like dissed Dre, Snoop, the Dog Pound, you know, Nate Dogg. You know, it was pretty much, you know, also getting at Dre for, you know, beating on D Barnes. This is pretty much one of the darker tracks that Eazy-E has ever put out, you know, just from that beat and his flow.
4 minutes. Now you got seconds left. Kick it. Come on, now let me ride, nigga. Eazy-E, CPT, how the hell you figure to be the best on the West? Huh? Yeah, fool, locked out. This is Eastside, nigga, South Compton, and I put it on the map. So what up, Dog Pound Grip? You wanna scrap? And that's coming straight from the
and whatnot too. Is just like one of his all-time grimiest tracks. And yeah, man, it's a shame that people heard this like after he died and stuff too. You know what I'm saying? So I definitely would put this as an underrated one. I was going to actually put BJ Knockout and Drusta's DPG Killer. That was also going to be a contender, but I wanted to also give it to the Eazy-E one. So yeah. Next track.
For the flavor of a single, sexy young slimmy, but not too young though. That's because Jimmy minded up on death row.
We are going to go with Master Ace with the top 10 list. This is aimed at Fat Joe. This was a very interesting track. Cause you know, Master Ace, he's no stranger to beefs. You know, he dissed the High and Mighty on the song Acknowledge, you know, from the Disposable Art. But I'm gonna give it to the obscure track that came from 1996. Now, when it comes to this track, there's been like a lot of really reasons why this incident started, but I'm gonna go with like the one where I personally found out was that Fat Joe was mad at MC Ace because Ace had dropped the Slaughterhouse album, you know, the Sitting on Chrome album, and he was kind of getting attacked by the East Coast for gravitating towards the West Coast and stuff like that, you know, because the production had more of like a G-Funk-esque kind of influence. And, you know, Joe kind of talked about this also on the song Keep It Real, which I want to say that was off the first album, I want to say. And he said that in a magazine, he said that Master Ace was not a real graffiti artist. And Master Ace said that Fat Joe was not a real gangster, shift too. And so, you know, Fat Joe said he was trying to appeal, you know, he's trying to represent his persona to appeal to his fans and stuff like that too. And so this is when Master Ace came out with the, I want to say the 12 single top 10 list. Very dope diss track in my opinion, like one of my favorite Master Ace tracks ever from that period.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 reasons you'll never be this raw. My crew's representing for BK, don't play or you might have to get crime watch around your way. Cause Brooklyn keep on taking it, still from way back. Say black, trying to get that fortune like say Jack. There must be at least 20 reasons you can't win in this rap game, you're hopeless. Here's the top 10. 10's very simple and
I mean, he just definitely sounded so angry, you know, sounded so calculated and stuff like that too. And, you know, Fat Joe, I don't think he actually responded to this track as far as I know. And it would be kind of interesting to see how Master Ace and Joe would have definitely beef, but they ended up squashing the beef, I think a couple weeks or months after the song was released too. So I would definitely check out Master Ace top 10 list. And the final song off this,
Just dance for me.
list is going to be Queen Latifah's Name Calling. Queen Latifah's Name Calling, Part 1, aimed at Foxy Brown. So, Queen Latifah and Foxy, that was another beef that kind of got swept under the rug over the years. The story with that track was the fact that Foxy Brown was just coming out, and believe it or not a lot of people were keen to Foxy because some people thought that she was a Lil Kim knockoff, which I'm going to talk more about that when I talk about the beef in one episode. But then Foxy had some words to say about Queen Latifah when she said that she felt that Queen Latifah was trying to hit on her and stuff like that too. And so, Queen Latifah came out with the song Name Calling off the Set It Off soundtrack.
Name calling hasn't fallen into what I'm running. I wouldn't diss another sister unless she had it coming. Name calling hasn't fallen into what I'm running. I wouldn't diss another sister unless she had it coming. Name calling hasn't fallen into what I'm running. I wouldn't diss another sister unless she had it coming. Name calling hasn't fallen into what I'm running. I wouldn't diss another sister unless she had it coming. Hold my Heineken patchy, I'm about to get you chalked. Bitches that think they hard.
And she definitely went for the juggler with Foxy Brown. I mean, she definitely sounded hungry. I mean, lyrically, like, she definitely was on some shit with that one. And yeah, man. And so Foxy definitely responded back to. She said he was do some shots back to. I want to say it was either on a China Doll album, I want to say, but yeah, man. But then Queen Latifah, she came up with a Name Calling Part 2, and the rest is history. So yeah, I definitely wanted to add that Queen Latifah song on it. But overall, those are like the underrated diss tracks, in my opinion, when it comes to hip hop. Yeah, it's not like I'm definitely gonna do a list about like my most known diss track, favorite known. So if you guys are curious about that, stay tuned for that one. But thank y'all so much for watching this episode of Why the Beef, and I definitely got a lot of good shit coming up too. So stay tuned. Peace.
Seduces her, and not only does she leave Joe Tex's band, she leaves Joe Tex.